Hi, this is Delphine from Leicester Lost. I hope you're well. Today I'm going to talk about how to stay safe when you're day hiking. I see a few questions around, how to handle the fact that you're alone in nature, that what happens if you get injured, that sort of thing. So I've put together a few tips for you on how to stay safe. Common sense, really. I have improved the precautions I take since I've been hiking a bit more regularly and a bit more seriously, because I realize that sometimes I am in the middle of nowhere, and that what happens if I fall over, or what happens if I run out of food and stuff like that. And I've had a few mishaps happen, and so here are my best tips. If you like my videos, don't forget to give them a like and subscribe. So tip number one, in order to stay safe when you're hiking, is to have a reasonable degree of fitness, and to match that degree of fitness to the trail you're embarking on. Don't do anything that's outside of your capacity. Is basically the tip here. Hiking is one of those activities that a lot of people can partake in. The age spectrum is extremely broad, from small children to older people. But you do have to make sure that when you're going on a trail, you have a certain amount of physical resource, because if you get to a place, you will need to come back and not be thoroughly exhausted. One thing I do to keep myself safe on hiking trails, especially if I'm by myself, I keep to the trail. I would never attempt to go from a random point A to a random point B, just because I think that, the view might be nice from up there. No, I stick to the trail, and I also keep away from cliff edges. Yeah, it's quite important to me to just abide by that rule, because if I fall off a cliff, well, and I'm by myself, who knows when my body will be found. So yeah, that's one of my rules. Another safety tip for hiking by yourself: I see a few people with headphones. I don't do that. The first reason is because it kind of defeats the purpose of being in nature and enjoying your surroundings and listening to the birds and all of that. I do use headphones when I walk to work, in the city, on the train. That's absolutely fine, but I don't use them when I'm hiking, because I need to be aware of my surroundings. If you're sharing the trail with other hikers, with trail runners, with bikers, you need to know who's coming behind you. They'll expect you to share the road, to share the trail. So yeah, I just need to know who's around. If someone's coming behind me, I think it's a lot safer that way. Another point for not using headphones is, you want to know who's crawling around you, right? Yeah, snakes. You want to hear them somehow, because most of the time they won't pay attention to you, but that rustling noise that they make when they're slithering through the leaves on the track right in front of you, you want to be alerted by your sense of hearing. Yeah, very simple. If you want to avoid stepping on a snake, hopefully you will hear it before you see it. So there are a few tools you can use for personal safety. Obviously, your phone has can act as a GPS. However, as soon as you lose phone reception, you will lose that contact to the outside world. So if you have old trails, I recommend using the Pro version because you can download the map. And if you do lose the phone signal, that's better than nothing. Using a tracking device, a PLB, is a good idea as well. My husband acquired a Garmin InReach Mini, and in some places that can be an absolute lifesaver. If you are immobilized. Another thing that has come up, in media and things like that is about personal safety. Is that, as a woman, there have been a few cases of assault. I've never felt in danger. I've never had a problem. I've only ever met people who have been, very friendly and not overbearing in any way. But I know it happens. It's hard for me to give you advice about what to do in a case like this. I've seen a few videos that encourage, the use of weapons of some sort to get yourself out of a tricky situation, out of a bad encounter. The problem with that, if you pull out a knife or something like that, mace is illegal in Australia. But be aware that anything that you can use as a weapon can be taken off you and used against you. So I think, about bad encounters, the way to keep you safe is to stay in a group. If you don't have that option, use a whistle or an alarm, because that will use as a deterrent. As I said, I've never had any problems, but I know it happens. My suspicion is that the more isolated you are, the more remote you are, the less likely you are to encounter people like that, because they're opportunists. They're actually more likely to be in suburban places and beach areas and stuff like that. That's my take on it. But obviously it's a consideration. Another way to keep safe is to join a group. Obviously, if you have an accident, they can provide support, or they can call for help, or whatever. A great way to do that is to join Facebook groups and to find hiking buddies that way. The problem with that is that you don't really know who you're going to hike with. Personally, I don't do it. If I was to do it as a woman, I would join a women's group, because I noticed that in some of the groups, if you start asking for advice and things like that, I've had a few guys approach me and say if I organize walks or if I want to go for a walk, and use a dating app. So that's the limitation I see in joining groups. The other one is if you don't know the people you're with, you don't know their level of fitness. So if they're more experienced and fitter than you, that can be a problem. And at the same time, if you have someone in your group that is not coping, or if they injure themselves, then there's the question of responsibility and things like that. I've heard stories of people, being stuck with someone who didn't have enough water, and that they had to take responsibility for, and had to call emergency services and things like that. My view is I don't want to be responsible for anyone, and I don't want anyone to be responsible for me. So I do things that I know are at my level, Having said that, you know, I may have to join a group sometime, but as I said, it's more likely to be a group of women, just because that's how I would approach it with strangers. So in terms of the other tools, I have for safety, I consider a power bank a safety tool to make sure that I have something to recharge my phone if I need to. So whistle or an alarm can either, be a deterrent to a potential attacker, or, and that's what's more likely to happen, is can alert, other walkers if you're injured or something like that. Safety for me is also around water. I make sure I have plenty of water, because if I run out of water, that's more likely going to become a problem for me. Another tool I'm thinking of taking with me, because it's really small and doesn't doesn't pack much weight, is a headlamp. Just in case I get stranded after, and if it gets dark. It's more likely to be something to take in winter, because the sun goes down much earlier. There are people taking, a bivy or some sort of shelter. I think it's a bit overkill for a day hike. But of course, if I was to be injured and wasn't able to move, that could be relevant. So it's just the few things that I don't forget, apart from good clothing, good sun protection, adequate food and water for the day. I don't mean to be paranoid, but there's a couple of things you can have with you which might come in handy. Another tip to stay safe is if you are hiking alone, or even with a friend, let someone know where you are, and give them an expected return time, because if someone knows that you're just going for a day hike and they haven't heard from you by the evening, then obviously it means that something's happened, and that's not what I want to happen to anybody. But in case of search and rescue, it's good for them to have an idea of the area where you might be, in case of an accident. So yeah, let someone know where you're going and what time you're expected back. So those were my tips. Let me know if you have any more. I'd love to hear them. I will see you in the next video.